So what's ailing men? These statistics are not just Australian statistics. These statistics are Western world statistics. Okay, so nearly 1/3 of boys die before birth. This is one of those biological realities that we're all looking at, that this has been true for a very long time. But once a boy is born, more boys than girls die from birth disorders and diseases in infancy. Then we have the problem of boys show greater susceptibility to family stress, especially in the development of conduct disorders. They're susceptible to physical, psychological problems. Why is that? Why are boys, once they get through the biological realities of being born and surviving infancy, why are they so much more susceptible, so less resilient?
I'm going to have a sense of direction where I'm going, but still I'm afraid. You know, am I doing the right thing? You know, I'm providing for my family. I have 2 girls, my wife. But sometimes you just feel you have a goal or direction, but it doesn't feel, you're kind of lost just to get there. You know, when you're heading that way, but you're still, you know you're doing good, you know, financially, family, but then again, you just feel like you're not going anywhere. I don't know if it's spiritually or personality. You don't know where to start sometimes. That'll be a question, you know, where do you start?
So it's really important, I think, in terms of trying to find balance in our lives, that we step back and go, okay, work is important because it provides subsistence, provides the money. How can we do this as a family that works for us as a family? Now, in some families, depending, you know, on the configuration of the families, the sorts of jobs they have, it might be the stereotypical man at work, woman at home thing works for a few years, or it might be a different configuration. I have a colleague whose wife is a merchant banker. He's a nurse. Why would he be the one that's still at work? What a silly plan. She's at work, he's at home with the children and works a couple of days a week because it makes sense for them as a family. And I think that that's where, you know, men need an opportunity to sit down with their wives and their families and go, well, what works for us? You know, who at this point needs to be at work and who doesn't? And we need to start a conversation that starts to do something about changing our workplaces to suit us. You know, they're our tools, we created them, you know, and that's where we need to perhaps, you know, start thinking seriously about how we want to dismantle patriarchy and traditional masculinity, which has missed out on stuff you would have loved to have. Men are doing that all over the planet. Women are working and raising children on their own. It's not good for anyone. And it's because we need to start challenging those values that we have that prioritises paid employment over raising children, caring for elders, creating relationships that are good and vibrant and supportive of us, pursuing interests. You know, I was listening to a busker down the road. Absolutely stunning, so beautiful, you know? And I was thinking, so many people have so many talents. We only see just a smidgen of those people in our sort of media, you know? But the world is full of people with talents and interests that they would get joy from pursuing. The guy who wants to go and sketch seagulls on the beach because it gives him joy. What's wrong with that? Why should he be at work 20 hours a day and not have any time to pursue something that gives him, you know, that sort of flourishing of his soul, you know? Children need their fathers. They really do. It's not an either-or proposition. It's an and also. Mothers, fathers and children come together as a package and they work best that way. You know? It's important that men have time to be with their children. It's important that women have time to use their brains and be adults and not just have child. You know, my mother had 4 children and she said by the time she was 38, she didn't know how to speak to adults because she had spent the last, you know, 12 years only dealing with children. And she had to relearn how to speak to adults. You know, this is not good for women. This is why we wanted to get out of the house. But men want to spend time with their children and can't. So surely we can find a way to work it so we all can do what works as, you know, humans. Because it's about being humans. And as I said, we only have one life.
Thank you for listening to our Inspire Change Coffee Talks. And don't forget to scan and subscribe to Swoboda Josephson VIP Inner Circle today for more content like this and exclusive perks and offers.